real estate agent? Are you looking to acquire clients consistently so you can grow your business and your income to live a great lifestyle? This is Dave Finale and the RE Skill Builder Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Yes, hello. It is Friday, July, 17th in the year 2020. Man, July's half over already. This is Real Estate Talk, TGIF, episode 109. That's right, episode 109. We've been going for 107 weeks straight. We've had 2 extra shows. And as I said, we've been going for a while. And just a quick announcement. If you're looking for Michael Hellickson, unfortunately, Mike took ill this morning. He is fine. He just was not able to be in a broadcast. And we are so lucky to have this hotshot Keller Williams team leader and regional director, Michael Brand, joining us. Michael, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, David, thanks for the invite. You know, I've respected you for years, and I love your podcast. So thanks for inviting me. Glad we can get together.
Thank you so much. And as I said, this is Real Estate Talk, TGIF. And you know what the TGIF stands for, right, Michael?
Thank God it's Friday.
Finale. Let's remember that. Let's not forget that. Let's make sure we promote that. But Friday does work too, Mike. So, no big deal.
I like finale better. I'll go with finale.
I kind of like that too. I've had it for a few years. So anyway, here, we've got 30 minutes to have a great conversation. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of people join us either now or on the recording. So let's talk about Michael Brand. Michael, you're the regional director of KW. You run a few market centers. Why do you want to do all that, man? And where did it come from? Talk to me about you.
Yeah, I mean, great question, Dave. First of all, I'm a real estate kid. I've been in the business for 25 years. My mother's been in the business for 35 years. And to be honest with you, Dave, we grew up poor. I grew up in Schenectady, Utica, New York. And I remember being back in the mid 80s, pretty much on food stamps. And, it never really got there. So I come from a family that struggled. It was right around 87, 88. We moved to New Jersey and my mother got into real estate. And by 1998, she had put all 4 of her kids through private college. So you kind of have a world where you have 2 kids that barely graduated high school that got married at 17, 18 years old, put 4 kids through private colleges, and it was real estate. It was the income my mother earned in real estate that took us from a struggling family to a family of entrepreneurs and successful people. So I do believe real estate is a place where we could truly change our economic position in life. And I'm passionate about helping other people do it. So that's what I love about our business. How many immigrants have we seen coming over with pennies in their pocket, but are now wealthy because they got into real estate and were able to build a big real estate business? So
Absolutely. And that goes for like everybody in society. I mean, I think our business is one of the most diverse as well, as far as immigrants, as far as everything else. And I think that's really cool. So we're having a brief conversation earlier to get rolling here. And we were talking about what's going on in our business. And look, I mean, we can talk about our past. We can talk about what we love about the business. But really, I think people are more interested in hearing what our thoughts are about what's going on today. I mean, you're a man of numbers from what I understand. And you've been working on some numbers and you see different things and different trends. Talk to us about the reality of what we're talking about here with numbers.
Right. Well, I mean, I can tell you, March 21st. I'm sure we all felt it when things were happening. March 21st, there was a concern. What's going to happen? What's going to happen in the real estate business? Are we going to be selling houses 3 months from now? What's this quarantine going to do? So I started watching the market kind of drop. I mean, going into April, we saw a dip of listings in the GSMLS. That's the numbers I kind of use, the Garden State MLS. We saw a dip in listings by 74%. We saw a drop in under contracts by 60%. Luckily, all of that's rebounding. But we kind of watched those numbers drop. So we're kind of seeing that now because our solds in July are down 30% after a 40% dip in solds in June. So I believe we're at the bottom of the worst that it's going to be. Now we're starting to see the under contracts are up by 55%. The under contracts are up by 55%. But here's the interesting number. Dave.
What's that, Mike?
Listings taken in July are up by 9%, but listings taken volume is up by 28%. So what's that telling us? The average price of listings are going up quite a bit because we have a supply issue, right? You know, we have a demand that's very solid, 55% growth, but supply is lagging behind that quite a bit. So if you're good at taking listings, now's the time to be a strong listing agent, because they're going to sell fast, and multiple offers are through the roof.
So let me ask you this question. Like, I have my own opinions on what's going to happen and stuff. And I was actually on with Mike Marinoff the other day talking about this. And so what we're seeing is at the bottom, and I think everybody was of the opinion that we were going to come out of this in a rush almost. And I think what's happened, and your opinion is very valuable in this, is I think what's happened is as we've seen coming out of it, I think New Jersey's in a pretty good place, but we've seen the rest of the country kind of go rebound and go back, right? What is that going to do? And what do you see as time goes on? The inventory, what do you see as far as the business is concerned?
Well, I think the inventory is going to be light. I think we're going to be in this low inventory phase for a while, because there's going to be some people that are fearful of what's going to happen, and they don't want to have people coming through their house. So I think we're going to see at this low inventory for some time, which is good for prices. Our prices have been relatively modest the last 5-6 years. So having the low inventory is going to drive prices up quite a bit. Just to make a comment on what you said, other parts of the country. I'm watching these other parts of the country going on lockdown a little bit more now, cases spiking.
Right.
I'd like to think we're not going to see that as much. We were the epicenter of Corona in March, April, May. So I think we've taken it much more seriously, the social distancing and some of those guidelines much more seriously than other parts of the country.
Right.
So I watch those numbers every day. I don't know if you look at the daily COVID update for New Jersey, but we're keeping it in a pretty good place. I mean, they're bumping up a little bit the last 2 weeks, but we're not seeing huge spikes like they are elsewhere.
Yeah, well, what we've seen over the past few weeks in New Jersey is the increase in 25 to 40-year-olds, as well as that was also 4th of July weekend, what we're seeing that from. New Jersey is still declining in cases, which is a good thing. Basically, what I see is I because of that is a hesitation, right? So when this whole thing started, there was this hiccup, this hesitation as, oh shit, what do we do, right? And then after a week or so, everybody started saying, okay, let's go. And the doers and the shakers and the top people were back on track and doing what they had to do. I mean, I've had some of my greatest broadcasts during this time, right? With people like Veronica Figueroa and others. But what I see is that as we come out of this slower than we thought, I believe you're going to have several different types of buyers and sellers. I think you're going to have people, and just go with my theory here.
Sure.
You're going to have people that have been in their house for 3-4 months and said, shit, I hate this place. We got to get out of here. Right. And they're going to sell and buy. And then there's going to be those people that say, you know what, if I had one more thing in this house, and they're going to do a renovation. Right. Mm-hmm. And then there's going to be, unfortunately, there's going to be divorce. We've had, unfortunately, more deaths. We have probate. And then
job loss that affects their ability. Job loss that affects their ability. Yep.
Job loss as well. And that's going to add to the foreclosure issue, where we might be back a little bit to that. Right. That's what Matt was saying the other day. So these are like my impressions. And let's not forget one last thing, the baby boom.
Yep.
What do you think about my statements of what I just said about where all this supply and demand is going to come from?
Well, so I think you're on the money. I've been talking to pool builders, people that sell pool tables, ping pong tables, recreational vehicles. Those businesses are through the roof right now.
Yes.
People are investing in more toys right now, landscaping, updating their house. Here's the interesting thing, I think, Dave. In North Jersey, where the baby boomers are sitting in those large homes, those McMansions, those 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 square feet. And we've been talking for the last couple of years, millennials don't want that. So there's going to be a surplus of that inventory. I think what's actually happening now, we're going to see a higher demand for that higher price point home over the next couple of years, because people will want more space now that they've been quarantined. They'll need the home office. Where they've been getting away from a yard, people are going to want yards again. Yep. Because this whole quarantine kind of put things into perspective. So I think we're going to see a nice bump in that 750 plus price point in Northern Jersey over the next 2 to 3 years, especially as people leave Manhattan, coming back out to the suburbs, which we saw a lot of that after 9/11. So I think what's that?
No, go ahead.
I think what's happening right now is actually a real good thing for Northern New Jersey over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think the New York metropolitan area, except for Manhattan in and of itself, is really going to benefit. I mean, I see some issues in Manhattan, as everybody does, with people moving out. I've already seen instances with friends of mine that live there that are moving. They're moving because they have the opportunity to, and they're getting rents 20, 30, and 40% less than what they would have paid, right? In an interview the other day I saw with Tom Ferry and Gary Vaynerchuk, Tom was talking about how these homes that have been on the market, these $3, $4, $5 million homes been on the market for 2 years in Connecticut, are now selling with multiple offers right, from people that have that $8 million apartment or whatever in Manhattan, excuse me, that are moving out.
Yep. Well, and you're also going to see that with commercial rents, especially office rents. I would not want to be an owner of office space, because you've got companies that have decreased the amount of employees they have, which means they need more space, and more companies are allowing people to work from home. I've got people that have been told they're okay working from home right until the early part of next year. So you're going to see a huge crunch on commercial rents too.
Yeah, my daughter works for a national department store that's not in our area, and she's been told, they're going to stay home for a while. There are other companies in other parts of the country that have been told that they need to come in and they must come in, and that's creating a lot of issues. Let's talk about you touched on it briefly, the commercial spaces, right? Let's talk a little bit about New Jersey. I mean, you're familiar with Paramus, New Jersey, and how it's the epicenter of shopping, right? Right. So, a couple of years ago, the Garden State Plaza, which is probably one of the biggest malls in the country now, right? I remember growing up, little kid, it was there, not like it is now, but it's grown. And they started talking about doing a downtown Paramus at this mall. The interesting part's going to be is what the small shop owners inside that mall are going to do. What do you see as far as shifts concerning malls like that and retail? What do you see? Because they're still building it like crazy on Route 17.
Yeah. Well, I've heard Gary say with our company, and he gets it from someone else, that mall. Some people say malls are dying, and I've heard said boring malls are dying. So I look up at up as you go over the New York State up on the 287 toward the Tappan Zee, the Palisades Park Mall. That's a destination mall. You got a Ferris wheel. You've got a tightrope walking, 4-story ropes course in there. So I think malls almost need to offer some amusement. In order to bring people in, it's got to be more than just shopping. Because what's happened, I think you could agree, people have relied a lot more on the Amazons of the world this last 3-4 months. Because they're less likely to go into a mall. So malls are going to really have to figure out, what they can do to attract people, and they're going to have to make it fun. That way, it's more of a shopping experience, kind of what they're doing there in Rutherford, around the Meadowlands, trying to bring some amusement into that area. Right. I think they're going to be hard pressed in today's world of getting people to go back into the mall. So they're going to find some different things to attract them.
So this is what we know. We know that retail's been hurt, right? Mm-hmm. We know that. We know that major retail, like in the big malls, is going to get hurt somewhat. Yep. What I've been saying for a long time, and I firmly believe this, and I think we're going to see in the next few years the rebirth of the downtown for several reasons. Number one, you talked about Amazon, right? And you talked about the malls. Well, we're seeing some really big players go down. Really big players go down.
JCPenney's closing more. Sears
is gone, right? You're seeing all these things, right? People are going to lack the service that they used to get. And that's why the resurgence of the downtown, of the little shops, the hat shop, the shirt shop, the dress shop, and so on and so forth. You're going to see that service pop back up, right? And the downtown going from in the late 70s, early 80s, I can remember that. We saw the downtown go from retail to service. Right. And slowly but surely, we're starting to see some more retail come back to the downtown because people are going to be willing to pay for the service.
Yes, right? True.
So we're going to see a lot of that, I believe. And one of the things that's really important is for the real estate agent of today to understand that their niche, their geography is really important. What do you think about that?
No, I mean, I think first of all, saying what you're saying about the service, I hope you're right. I'd love to see that. What I've seen the last couple of years is us turning more into a disposable economy. Some things have gotten so cheap. I mean, my grill. I mean, when it comes time after a couple of years, it's easier to throw out my grill and get a new one versus changing the parts in the grill. So I do like the idea of people coming back into downtowns for service. As far as geography goes, I think hyper local is going to be more important now than ever.
Yes.
People being very much a specialist in their geographic area and being the best of the best in that geographic area. So, I definitely think everything we have to do is to be the specialist in that neighborhood, in that town, as opposed to much more broad. And the big teams, I see Dave DeVoe on here, the big teams are going to have team members that are specialists in their hyper-local markets. So, right. I definitely think that local knowledge, that local expertise will be more important now than ever.
And one of the things I want to bring also too, when we talk about the big players, the hyper-localness, when you say the big players and you say hyper-localness, you would think that those things don't gel and they don't work, the big and the hyper, because hyper-local to us is like that neighborhood, right? That subdivision. In New Jersey, we don't have like that quote unquote subdivision. Oh, you live in that subdivision, right? You have that in other parts of the country, but not here, right? And you look at the example of the big players being hyper local. You can see that you've got two large teams out in San Diego that are top teams in top 100 teams in the country that are sharing that market. They're both doing 400, 500, 600 units a year, which is just absolutely amazing. My point to that, Michael, is that there's enough business for the agents to go around and for everyone to work together, right? And that's what we hope to see. So when we talk about the number of agents, what do you believe? Like there are approximately 1.4, 1.5 million realtors. And when I say realtor, I mean members of the National Association of Real Estate, real estate.
But there's a lot more licensed salespeople. There's even more than that licensed salespeople, but those are the members of the board. Yep.
Those are the members. Those are realtors because they pay dues. They're realtors. I'm sorry if anybody pisses anybody off. I don't care. You get it designation because you're paying somebody, right?
Yeah.
So, and the local boards, by the way, just to throw a little plug, I think the local boards do a great job more than anybody else, but that's beside.
Well, I want to reinforce that. One of the things that made a lot of companies great is they came out with great training. The boards have been coming out with training like they never have before. So I think the local boards have been doing a great job of offering a lot more value to their members, without a doubt. So what you're saying from a population standpoint, real estate schools are booming right now.
Yes, they are.
With people being quarantined, people being laid off, we're seeing kind of what we saw back in 2001, 2002. So I expect there to be a pretty big shift in the next few years. There'll be a lot of people that leave the business because it has changed. It's not what they're comfortable with. Right. But I mean, I know people that have said they've got 60 people in real estate school, especially in New Jersey. We were able to do it via Zoom for the first time ever, be able to do a real estate school online. So I think we're going to see huge numbers coming into the business this next 12 to 18 months.
I think we will too, but I also believe that there are people out there that will say, I mean, there's so many things flying around about the number of agents. Like, let's just look for a second. Let's just look at Florida, right? If there's 1.5 million realtors in the country, there's 300,000 in Florida. That's 20%, right? Yeah. You're not 20%, and so we're going to see a decrease in this. And I want to point one thing out. We've got a great comment that just came up.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge that too. I love what Charles Zoppler said.
So let's put his up there because he's a great man, and he's right. It is a lot more than just dues. The advocacy that got the unemployment benefits for the independent contractor. Thank God for that. Michael hit on that too.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest with what's happening. The fact that independent contractors can benefit from that, agents with teams benefiting from the PPP. What the Realtor Association has done from a lobbying standpoint has been absolutely stellar. Absolutely stellar. What I'd love to see, if I could throw it out there to Charles, and I think a lot of us brokers might agree with it, I love to work together in the state of New Jersey to allow us to be able to pay realtors as LLCs and entities. A lot of other states were able to do that. I'd love to see if we can work with our states to be able to make that happen because it allows our agents to run businesses a whole different way if they can be paid as an entity versus an individual. That'd be the next thing I'd love to see the Realtor Associations kind of tackle.
I think you might see that, but honestly, I think there's a lot more things that we need to do that we need to get rolling with things and improve what we're doing. I think Charlie is like, he's the hard worker of them all. And I'm not blowing smoke, Charlie. I mean, I've known Charlie a long time, and he's just been a great guy to work with. And he's done a great job, and they've done great jobs to help us keep going, right? And let's point this out.
Yeah, you just said that. Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that. I know I heard them talk about that last year, so I love the fact that that's a topic of conversation. We appreciate everything you've done, Charlie. Last couple, in your career, without a doubt, but both in the state and national, last few years, you've been doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Yeah, and but there's so many other things going on, and as we talk about the number of realtors, I believe, like I said, there's a lot of people that think that we're going to be cut in half the number, that there's going to be 20%, 30%. I even heard someone go as far as 80% we're going to lose. I don't think that's the number. I think we're going to have a telltale sign over the next couple of months as to what that's going to look like as time goes on, But I really don't know what that number is. But
we talked about it briefly beforehand, Dave. I think what I'm seeing right now, those 1 and 2 deal a year agents are kind of leaving right now. Those 7, 8 deal a year agents might only be doing 4 or 5 this year. I think the opportunities for the big agents, I'm seeing the big agents, the big teams take more market share now than they ever had before. They used a couple months during quarantine to be a lot more visible. And be out there touching with their databases. So I think this is an opportunity for the people that have market share to take even more market share if they're doing the right things.
Yeah, and here's what I think the difference is going to be in the realtor in school today rather than the realtor that's going to walk away. I think we'll see some of the older people walk away because of technology, but I think we'll also see some people that are just like fun-time players or part-timers. I want to take that back. Not part-timers. There'll be some people that just got in it just to see and to try it. And them. But the people that are going into today are going to be a lot more serious, right? They're going to be a lot more serious as to what's going on and what they're doing. I think there's going to be a great transition there. I want to transition over because I know we're short on time, but I want to bring up this comment by Dave DeVoe about the distress shadow inventory, forbearance causing defaults, bankruptcy, et cetera. Let's address that, Michael. Hit that, will you please?
Yeah, well, first of all, we never came out of the shadow inventory. We're one of the few states that never emptied them. In other states like Georgia, it was 90 days from the time you stopped paying to get them out of the house. So they fall a lot faster, recovered faster. So we still had the shadow inventory. And I do think we're going to see a lot of that coming into the end of this year, early part of next year. I think defaults are going to increase, especially with people losing their jobs. Some people get themselves so far in the hole during that quarantine that they're not going to be able to get out of it. So I personally see us going into a market where increase your short sale knowledge, increase your ability to service REOs. I personally think we'll see a lot more of that. What about you, Dave? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think so too. I believe that there was this thing in the beginning where even the big guys like Tim Harris was saying, get the forbearance, right? And that was in the beginning. And then as time went on, we saw that people were worried. We were talking about, what the hell's going to happen with your forbearance? Because they're saying, well, if you get 3 months on the 4th month, all those 3 months are going to be due. And then a bunch of banks, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to name 2. Valley and M&T both stepped up to the plate because I have experience with them. They were going to do the right thing. They're going to do the right thing by their customer, right? And they had conditions that were involved, no questions, right? Mm-hmm. But there's so many other things going on. And then I want to go back to one other thing that Dave says is sheriff sales canceled during COVID as well. So there's all that shadow inventory as well. Talk to me about that, Mike.
Well, no, so I want to go back to one comment you were making about banks. I've been really impressed the last 3 months how banks, landlords, all things have come together. Credit card companies being flexible, people paying back their credit cards. Landlords, we renegotiate a lot of our leases for a short time in order to give us a little bit of relief. So I've been really impressed where it's been an everybody issue. So I'll be curious to see, the government is still doing things to prop up the economy. I'll be curious to see what they do when it comes to some of these bankruptcy and distressed issues there. I think we've got a backlog. I mean, I think we've got a backlog. Sheriff sales, there'll be a lot more coming out. It's a great time to be a buyer of homes like that, especially if you're a renovator or flipper, or you're looking to buy and hold for long-term investment. This is going to be a market where there'll be people that build a lot of wealth.
So, Michael, yep. What do you think that's going to have? What do you think that's going to do with prices? Because we've already stated a little bit that prices are going to go up a bit. What do you think that's going to do to pricing as all this inventory comes flooding into the market someday, somehow?
Well, again, right now we're still well behind where we should be in inventory. Its question is how quick it floods. It's supply and demand. Right now our demand is up by 55%, but our supply is only up by 9%. So we have a 46% difference between supply and demand right now.
So I want to make a proposal to what I believe is going to happen and get your thoughts on it. It's a little bit different than most, right? So we talked about what's going to happen, and we talked about prices. We talked about the different types of sellers are going to be different types of buyers. What I believe is going to happen when all is said and done is that we're going to see something we haven't seen in a very, 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 very long time. And it's a word that begins with N and ends in L called normal. I believe that we're going to get really close to what a normal market is in about a year or so. And let's understand what a normal market is, in my opinion. And this is from one of my favorite people in the world, Steve Harney of KCM, is a normal market is 1 to 3% of appreciation per year, 90 to 120 days to sell a house, and 5 to 6 months of inventory. That's what I think we're going to see. We're going to see a little bit of this. We're going to see mostly prices going up, and then there's going to be a stabilization. That is Dave Finale's prediction. What do you think about that?
TGIF. That's what I think of that. No, I mean, I'd love to see that because we were kind of due for a shift.
Yeah,
we were due for, and the one fears I have is kind of what we saw in the early 2000s. We should have seen a shift in 2001, but with everything happening, the government did the things they did to prop up the real estate market, and we had an unnatural growth. So I'd like to see a normal market. I hope that assessment is there because I don't want to have an overinflated market that pushes prices up higher than they can bear.
So here's another great comment. Dave had the REIT slowed down and most auctions in REO going for retail. That's a pretty interesting statement, and he's a guy that would know, right? So that's pretty cool in and of itself. So
and watch what go and Google BlackRock. BlackRock's been making a lot of comments. They're one of the biggest, largest real estate holders in the world. BlackRock Investments, and they've been sharing some things that are happening in their portfolio. That's definitely something to watch. So,
what I'd like to do in the near future, and we've had you as one of the heavy guys, and two heavy guys come on, Charlie Oppler and Dave DeVoe.
Yep.
All three of you on at one time, so we can go through this in the next month if that's okay with you. And hopefully, Charlie, you hear that. Dave, same. I have all three of you guys on at once. And we'll do that sometime.
I respect both those guys immensely. I'd love to be on a call and us all chat about real estate.
That's awesome. So I know we have a time constraint. Michael, I want to ask you a couple of quick questions to start. How do people get in touch with you if they want to communicate with you and talk to you about your expertise? How do they get in touch with you?
I've got a LinkedIn page, got a Facebook page. I do a lot of videos through those things. The best way is my cell, 908-625-5807. Text is the best way to get me. Email is probably the worst way to get me. So my inbox is huge. So 908-625-5807 is my cell.
Awesome. And you know what? When we had the Michael Hellickson thing, and I reached out to you to come in and join us today, you asked me one thing. Am I getting a hat?
Am I getting a hat? I'm right. That's why I'm here.
Yes, you are getting a hat. We will take care of that for you. We thank you so much for coming on. So I have one last question.
Shoot.
It's a question I ask everybody that comes on, and it's at the end. And it was started by my good friend Sekou Pyle, who we asked one question. How can I help you grow your business?
Well, I like what you're doing here, Dave. I like the fact that you're bringing real estate professionals together to talk in an unbranded, a non-judgmental environment. I love when we come together because at the end of the day, we're one community. We've all got our different logos, we've got our different brands, but we're all in this together. And if we're all teaching each other, supporting each other, helping each other, we're building a solid community. So what you're doing is helping me right here with this. So I love what you're doing. I'm happy and excited that you let me be a part of it, and looking forward to doing it again.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Dave says I'm going to put Dave's comment. Get this still hustling. Thank you, Mike. Awesome insight. Took a ton of notes. I respect the hell out of Charlie Oppler, Dave DeVoe, Michael Brand, and all the people that I am so fortunate to have on. And for those of you that were tuning in to see Michael Hellickson, he will be on in a few weeks. We're rescheduling. He took ill a little bit today. He's fine. He's going to be great. Michael, if you stand for a second, great. Otherwise, talk to you soon.
I'm going to jump off. I got my 11:30 here. We'll talk to you soon, Dave.
Take care, everybody.